I've seen a lot of people talk about 180 hand cannons as if they're going to be the next big thing, and while I think that they will get better, I think rather what you're going to see is actually a 150 scout rifle meta, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think a lot of people are about to miss the train. So, in case you've been living under a rock, the recent TWAB has discussed that there's going to be some major buffs to some of the least used weapon archetypes in PvP. And these weapon archetypes are horrible, at least in a lot of people's eyes. They're some of the worst weapons in the game. I've actually made a couple videos on these, and I was planning on discussing the 180 hand cannons at some point until they got their announced buff. The plan for today's video was to discuss these changes actually in game, but I must have been given some bad information somewhere because obviously they haven't dropped. Regardless, I hope this video is helpful to kind of get you on your way, or at least have an eye out for when the meta drops on day one. I'm going to go through each of these very lightly, each of these bullet points very quickly, but I want to focus specifically on the 150 scouts. Completely feel free to skip ahead. I completely understand. I'm sure you've probably heard this a dozen times. 180 hand cannons are going to get a buff to their in-air accuracy, as well as they're going to be a lot more forgiving. They're going from 37 to the body to 40, 57 to the head to 60. This will mean that a damage bonus to them will likely kill a low resilience guardian, even if it's something like Radiant where it's only 10%, will kill lower resilience guardians at 66 per headshot in just 3 shots to the head. Oh, and by the way, in general, across the board, we're seeing inborn air effectiveness getting buffed, so great. I mean, frankly, I feel like all weapons should probably sit somewhere close to like 60, but you know, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, 450 RPM autos are getting a buff to their body shot damage, and their headshot crit multiplier is being brought down to compensate. You shouldn't see any major difference there. Can we talk about the irony that all of these are meant to be precision frames and they require less headshots now than some of the faster archetypes? I just find that funny. This is the big one here. Scout rifles. 180 scouts are going from 34 to 38 and 54 to the head and 60 to the head. This is going to make them significantly more forgiving, allowing you to 2 crit 2 body against slightly low resilience guardians, of which these desperately needed. These are going to be very much similar to the hand cannons in that they're going to have a bit of leniency in how you can actually take engagements. 180 scouts have been, in my opinion, the worst archetype of weapon in the entire game. And I know every single time I make a comment like that, I see people in the comment section say, hey, I saw such and such streamer do really well with it, and I get that. The problem is that doesn't show that that weapon is good. Rather, it shows that that player is really good. So whoever you just thought of when you thought of, hey, such and such player used such and such weapon and went flawless, or whatever it may be, don't think of that as like that weapon is good. Think of that as that player is ridiculously good, and that's just more credence to how good of a player they really are. While we're on that subject, the special ammo that we're currently experiencing, the ammo economy that we're currently experiencing, is very much favoring fusion rifles, and we are seeing things like glaives, things like the Forerunner, the Ariana's Vow get a buff into the amount of ammo that they're going to pick up. A lot of people have said glaives finally are going to see their delighted day. No, I do not agree with that. I think glaives are still and will be some of the worst weapons in the game. Again, I know I'm going to get people in the comments saying, hey, but such and such player did such and such thing. I get that. It's cool. No, nothing wrong. I, above everybody else, like, listen to me here before you write that angry comment. I, above everybody else, want glaives to be cool. I love the idea of them. I think they're so neat and they're so special. They're so unique. And they suck. I have spent the last like 30 games or so watching my KD drop trying to use the exotic glaives. Now I know some people will say, again, why don't you use the legendary glaive with this perk and this such. And again, that's cool. I really like the exotic glaive. I really like the hunter's exotic glaive because I think not only does it have the best time to kill, which it really needs, but it also has the ability to get some really big plays. I really like the idea of this thing, and I've spent a lot of my time building a specific build to make this thing as good as I possibly can with some special combos that I haven't really seen anybody talk about, so hopefully you can see some of that in the background here. But despite all of that, I still do not recommend glaives. Even if I were picking up 4 ammo per brick, I would not recommend glaives. I really hope that the special ammo changes are all they need, but when I'm looking at them, man, picking them feels like picking like a USB steering wheel to play a fighter game. It is an active hindrance to my performance. They make primary weapons look good. That's how terrible they are. And it mostly falls in the fact that their registration is just very inconsistent, whether that be the melee or the projectile. And the shield, I feel like, still needs to block more damage in PvP. Most of the time when you're engaging on a target, you really have to go all in. And unless you already have a shield and are walking around the corner with said shield, you are going to take a bunch of damage and likely somebody's going to be able to clean you up, which is, again, why I like this exotic glaive, because it has the fastest RPM, the least likely chance of me getting just, cleaned out. That's a small rant aside. What I really want to talk about here, and I know I've taken a long time to get here, is 150 scouts, specifically Jade Rabbit. Now, if you don't like 150 scouts, you probably don't understand what makes them good. 150 scouts have one of the fastest TTKs for the ranges that they compete at and still hold primary ammo. I would say that they're not the fastest. Obviously, I mean, you've got things like Forerunner that is able to kill even faster, but a 150 Scout is sort of our replacement to the 150 hand cannons, but they have even further range. The thing that's holding them back is obviously we don't have the lightweight bonus, and they're a little bit clunky because they have a longer zoom and not the greatest of handling. But with the maps getting bigger and people starting to play even more backline, 150 Scouts are in a great spot to play as sort of a counter to the meta. The higher impact pulse rifles that you're seeing right now, you can poke people with the Scout and force them to respect the lane. And with these changes, you're going to see a lot more of them. And like I said, specifically Jade Rabbit. Reason for that is that with these new changes, Bungie has stated specifically that you're going to be able to two head, one body, a really low resilience Guardian, which means that it's unlikely that it's ever going to happen in game, but it's still something to keep in mind if you had some kind of damage buff. Maybe there's going to be a roll out there of a 150 Scout that actually might be able to keep a decently high damage bonus going around, maybe something with Harmony, I don't know. But Jaden specifically, its perk is going to be a guaranteed one head or two head, one body every single time. And the only thing that you have to do is make sure that the body shot happens somewhere in the earlier shots, not the last shot. And that's a little bit terrifying. We're seeing the game slowly get more and more forgiving. We're seeing the bottom being brought up and the top being pushed up even further. Some of the best weapons that we've seen in the game have continued to get a little bit better outside of a few things being brought down here and there. We've seen the the high impact pulses continue to dominate more and more and more. And what we're seeing is a direct counter to them. Not necessarily, maybe not a counter, maybe that's a bit too strong of a word, but a competition to them. Something that you can play to outpoke these things, because that's really where the pulse rifles are going to struggle a little bit, is they have to hit all of those shots, and you can poke in and out and only need to hit 3, right? So I don't know, maybe I'm talking out my ass. You can let me know in the comments section, but I wanted to get this video out there just to discuss some things, and specifically to keep your eye on the Jade Rabbit, because I really do believe at the bottom of my heart Jade Rabbit was already good. It was already okay. Like, I'm using it in the background here. It is performing just fine. I love Scouts. I know I'm biased, but Jade is good. Jade is pretty good. And with the changes that we're going to see, I think the Jade might be like the best weapon because of its faster TTK than a lot of stuff. A 0.8 second TTK. And it's going to have weapon forgiveness, which it's desperately in need of. And everything else around it is still pushing further and further at ranges. The maps are getting bigger. People are playing further back. For me, it feels like an inevitability, but I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section what you think. And I've left a clue, or I guess I shouldn't say it. I left a code somewhere in this video that the first person to DM it to me in Discord will get a $20 gift card to Chipotle. Good luck finding it. Bless your faces and deuces.